All right. What a night. What a day for Jaxson Dart. What a day for the Giants, defeating the New York Jets 31-12. A huge night for the rookie quarterback, for Brian Daboll's team, for Giants Nation as a whole. Welcome to Talking Ball Postgame Live with Pat Leonard. I'm the New York Daily News NFL columnist and Giants beat writer, as you all know. And I am coming to you live from MetLife Stadium. I am looking at the field with the blue end zones, the white Giants words, logo in the end zone, where Jaxson Dart converted twice, got in, and established himself as a legitimate threat for significant playing time early in this regular season. Russell Wilson did his part, obviously, with an 80-yard bomb to Bo Collins, the undrafted rookie receiver, on that first drive to set up a Devin Singletary touchdown run. But Wilson throws an interception, and Jaxson Dart not only converting 2 touchdowns coming out of halftime with the second string offense, with a touchdown pass to Greg Dulcich and also a 1-yard touchdown run after a nice catch and run from Juice Wells down to the 1-yard line. But also, most importantly, in addition to Dart's continued production, he saw first-team reps in this game. The first time Jaxson Dart has played in a game with the first-string offensive line, and really all of the first-team offensive players that were healthy tonight were playing with Jaxson Dart on that drive. They went 3 and out, but he got that one play with the first team, a long gain. I think it was a 30-yard gain to Theo Johnson, the tight end, on a tight end screen. And then he jumps back in the next drive. And yes, they go 3 and out with a run, Dart getting hit on an incomplete pass and nearly escaping for what he thought could have easily been a touchdown if he hadn't been brought down in the backfield on a shoestring tackle. But overall, what's encouraging here is not only Dart's production, getting in the end zone, completing 14 of 16 passes for 137 yards, a touchdown pass, and 123.2 passer rating. But in addition to that, just the fact that Brian Daboll and the Giants are continuing to acclimate him to more, to present him with more opportunities, more challenges. It is no small thing, even though Jaxson Dart was humble about it and did not overreact to the opportunities he received in this game. It is no small thing that Jaxson Dart got those first-team reps. Yes, Malik Neighbors did not play. Yes, Andrew Thomas is still out. This was not the first-team offense that we are going to see on the field in week 1. Brian Daboll also reaffirmed at the end of this game in the post-game press conference, he said, Russ is our starter, and we're going to continue to develop Jaxson. However, you and I both know that if the Giants offense sputters early, if Russell Wilson can't lift this team over the hump in week 1 against Washington, if Jaxson Dart starts getting some practice reps with the ones, this is trending towards what normally happens with teams that have promising first-round rookie quarterbacks and have offenses that need a jolt and more juice. And that is that the rookie ends up playing early. Because of that, we're not wishing Russell Wilson out of the lineup. Russell Wilson made some plays tonight. I actually thought, in addition to that deep pass, one of the key things that Russell did well a couple times was checking into favorable looks and running plays when there was too high safety with the Jets defense. The Giants offensive line also did better in this game, protecting Wilson, giving him some time to push the ball down the field. I had some good conversations after the game tonight, one with Bo Collins, one with Juice Wells Jr. We talked to Jaxson Dart as well. There's a video of Jaxson Dart's full interview premiering right now on this website, YouTube channel, PL on NFL. Go watch that now. If you tune in later, if you wake up tomorrow morning, Sunday morning, and you're still feeling the high of the Giants' victory, go check out Jaxson Dart's post-game words and message. Because as much as he is impressive as a player and as much as he's carrying himself well, I thought what really stood out to me after the game was when Jaxson Dart said, these words. He said, the most important thing was us getting the win. I want us to continue to expect these kinds of things as a team. Just have fun winning and play the game. The most important thing is to come out and win. When he says, I want us to continue to expect these kinds of things as a team, what he's talking about is having that high of a standard. He's talking about this franchise expecting these results. The stadium, the team, the environment felt different today. It's a preseason game. There were hiccups early, like Russell Wilson in that first team offense. They only got 7 points, right? So for all the talk that we're saying right now about how exciting all these things are, there's still things to work on. There's still things to clean up. There's still reasons to prepare the Giants and to grind it out to get to week 1, week 2 against Washington and Dallas and make sure that they are ready to go, that they are humming on all cylinders, that they are not committing these pre-snap penalties. But I think Dart's message is an important one. He's talking about raising the standard. He's talking about having the expectation of having an exciting offense, of getting in the end zone, of competing at a high level on all sides of the ball. And when I come out of this game and out of this environment, I was just in the locker room talking to these players, talking to Brian Daboll, getting their message and their feeling coming out of this victory over the Jets. You know, what I take away from it is that there is just a little bit of a different vibe. And, you know, I thought Juice Wells Jr. said it best to me. So he's a, you know, undrafted rookie, played at Ole Miss with Jaxson, and not surprised by what Jackson's doing, but raving about how he's improving, how he's getting better, how he's acclimating, and how exciting it is. And in the tough world of the NFL, you have a lot of guys at this time of year, they know that they're only going to be practicing and playing for a few more days before they get that call and they get cut. And Juice Wells Jr. said to me, he said, I want to be here. I hope to be here because there's something special going on. It's such an exciting time. I'm so excited for these guys and for what this team can do. And he said, I want to be here, but if I'm not here, he said, I will be pulling for them. I want to be around it. I want to be watching it. I'm very excited for it because I really think it's going to be an exciting season. And so this is a young man knowing that his days could be numbered here, but just looking at what's around him, observing what he sees. He played, obviously, at an SEC program, and this is Juice Wells Jr. telling me, you know, something special is coming. So that, I think, is all exciting. And I'll put the exclamation point on here as we roll in to Talking Ball Postgame Live with Pat Leonard, sponsored by MyBookie, Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, and Hooks, Rubs, and Spices, as well as Salaretta for Men, which helped me arrive in style to our first Giants arrival videos up now on social media. Jaxson Dart, Jameis Winston, and Tommy DeVito all rolling in together. By the way, nice little arrival there. But brought to us by our sponsors. Very grateful for our sponsors here. But to put an exclamation point on what Jaxson said about the win and about expectations, tonight was the Giants' first win over the Jets in their last 7 meetings. They hadn't beaten the Jets since Daniel Jones' rookie preseason of 2019. The Jets had won the team's last 4 preseason meetings from 2021 through 2024 and their last 2 regular season games in 2019 and 2023. So that is, I know it's a preseason game. I know that, you know, players didn't play on both sides of the ball, but this is exciting. It's exciting to have a promising young quarterback in the building. It's exciting to have reason to believe. It's exciting to have reason to hope. And with that, we'll jump into our chat. Patrick Evans reminds us to hit that subscribe button and the like button on your way in. Thank you, Patrick, for that. Please subscribe to the channel. Hit those likes while you are live. That's the best way to help grow this community. It pushes out there to the fans looking to consume more content on the Giants, looking to break down what they saw on the field, looking to talk to me, somebody who is in the locker room, in the press conferences, here in the press box, watching in person, analyzing, talking to sources, figuring out what happened on certain key plays, who made mistakes, who unlocked something special on the field, what went right, what went wrong, all of those details that you're not sure about. I can bring a firsthand access and information right into your living room, wherever you're watching. Maybe you're still sitting there in the den or the basement with the television on, the lights low, and you're just vibing right now because your Giants got a 31-12 win. You know, Aaron Glenn's probably not sleeping tonight because of how rough of a night the Jets had here. Listen, I've been covering the Giants since 2016, especially in recent years. It's been rough going. And there are some reasons to really be excited and believe at this moment. Joey B sets a good example for the chat too. Remember, guys, if you purchase a super chat or a super sticker, you will jump to the top of the queue, and I will answer your comment or question immediately or next up when I'm done speaking on whatever topic we are covering. So Joey B says, I haven't seen 2 wins in a row in almost 5 years. Come meet me at the Highwood in Weehawken. Look at Joey B getting it in after the game. Guys, if you're at the game, if you're in the area, you're looking for a way to continue vibing, Joey B's at the Highwood in Weehawken. Go check him out. Really great night. Really exciting. And so let's get into your questions. I have plenty more from the locker room and some insights, but definitely want to address it in the order that you guys are curious about it. One thing I do want to remind you is we're extremely grateful to Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink. It's a natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. The code is TalkingBall25 on boomchaga.com. If you go there, you'll get 25% off your first order on the subscribe and save option. They've got a great product. I put it in my coffee every morning for a nice little kick. They also have some cold teas that are delicious and excellent for these hot and humid summer months. Sweet Dreams, Rise and Shine, and Midday Boost, all great flavors. Also, as we get into the time of year when we're starting to place our future bets, we're starting to get ready with our fantasy football teams, we're starting to place wagers on the money lines. MyBookie is the number one place to do it. MyBookie.ag, you're going to use the promo code Leonard, Leonard. You can see all those promo codes scrolling across the bottom of the screen. MyBookie has tons of unique features on the NFL betting, or if you like to jump into the casino, all tons of offerings there and a lot of unique ways to bet too. They have a lot of different games and different unique prize picks, partner picks, money bag, the bet boosts, WWE and UFC, also great to bet on MyBookie. Using my code, you'll get a 50% deposit bonus redeemable all the way up to $1,000 in bonus funds. Last but not least, I mentioned Salaretta for Men keeping me nice and fresh for these arrivals. But Hooks, Rubs, and Spices. Hooks, Rubs, and Spices, first of all, sponsors our trivia giveaway every chat. So thank you to Jared, owned and operated by Jared, a diehard Giants fan from Houston, Texas. Whether you're home gating or hosting the Giants crew in the lot, Hooks, Rubs, and Spices gives your grill serious flavor with their bold seasoning lineup. All natural, no junk, and big Texas barbecue flavor to keep fans coming back for seconds. You can really put it on anything. Use the code TalkinBall, as you see on the bottom of the screen, at hooksrub.com for 15% off discount on your order. Great swag at hooksrub.com as well. And I got to mention, I see Jared in the chat. Jared, Antoine Staley, our Jets beat writer and NFL columnist at the New York Daily News, who joined us to preview this game this week on Talking Ball Live during the weekdays. I gave him a couple of your sample flavors to try out because Antoine is big into grilling, and he already used the H-Town rub, and he said it was amazing. Put it on some ribs, and he was raving about it in the press box tonight. So, guys, listen, if you're going to support our chat, asking questions is great. Super chats are fantastic. But I ask you to please support our sponsors. If you love the content that we bring here, supporting our sponsors is the best way to support us. So thank you so much for that. And please support, again, Hooks Rub, MyBookie, Boom Chaga, and Salaretta. All right. Patrick Evans says, this team feels different, Pat. Very exciting. Totally agree, Patrick. It does feel different. Now, listen, this is one night. And so we have to understand and temper our expectations. Not, you got to get excited about this. You have to be positive. This is a positive night for the Giants. There is no question about it. But you also do need to understand it needs to continue to be a process, and this team needs to continue to clean up, whether it's the pre-snap penalties, whether it's the turnovers. Think about Russell Wilson tonight. That bomb pass to set up the touchdown, great. But those are the only points that he and the first-team offense were able to generate. Now, of course, Malik Neighbors was not playing in this game. That's a huge asterisk. Then again, neither was Quinnen Williams, neither was Jermaine Johnson, neither was Sauce Gardner on the Jets' defensive side of the ball. The point is, it does feel a little bit different around the team. And I think that Dart, what he said about winning and having this be the expectation and what they need to believe is going to come and get used to this and want to get used to it. This is what is exciting about what the Giants are building right now. Elias checks in with a big-time super chat. Thank you so much, Elias. He says, what's up, Pat? Here's to a great win. It's early, but Jaxson is getting me excited. Fans finally have hope. Question, what excitement do you see in the vets about the young guys coming in and changing the culture to a winning one? Yeah, it's a good question, Elias. So, what I saw in the locker room, so after this game, because I was not at the Buffalo game, so I was in the Giants locker room today. It's the first time I've been in the locker room since last season, because in the spring, whether it's OTAs, whether it's mini camp, and then even into training camp, you're never doing the interviews in the locker room. That's only really during the season that you're doing that, having that kind of access. So you don't get a chance to have those kind of conversations and to kind of feel the vibe of how, of what's coming, of how those veterans and rookies are reacting to one another. And what I see from the veterans is excitement about the energy that the young players are bringing to the team. And also with Dart, I think there is some genuine excitement about how he's assimilating, and he's confident, but also humble. So every time he gets asked, just like post-game tonight, about wanting to be the starter or hey, do you think you're ready for more first-team reps? He doesn't say no, because he wants the challenge and he wants that opportunity. So he leaves the door open for, yeah, give it to me and I'll take advantage of it. But today, for example, he mentioned unsolicited that he's in a quarterback room with guys he looks up to and that he's trying to learn as much as he can from them. And that's a part of his process in developing and growing. And so the veterans like hearing that and seeing that, because you're showing promise, but you're also doing it with humility. So Carter's an interesting player in that regard, because he's super, super confident, and the hype around him is so loud. You almost sense from his teammates that they're excited about him, but they also don't want him to get too big of a head. They just want to unleash him, see him do it on the field, and see everybody kind of nodding their heads and smirking as the rookie is then, let's say, stealing double teams off of Dexter Lawrence sometimes, or giving Brian Burns a one-on-one on a key third down. And so it's a little bit of a buzz to the way that the locker room is reacting. It's providing some healthy competition. So for some veterans, it's not like they're thrilled about more rookie talent being in because they might be taking their job, right? So that's a reality too. But I was talking to Zach Pascal the other day about Dart, and I'll actually be writing a story about Dart for the Daily News coming up early this week. But Pascal couldn't have raved more about Jaxson Dart and about what that young energy and promise means to the receiver room, to the offense. And I know I'm focusing on Jaxson a lot, but I think talking about Dart in regards to how the veterans are reacting is a good microcosm of the excitement about what this youth is doing for the team. And so I hope that answers your question. Thank you for the super chat. if I did not answer the question and there's more to come, then or you want more insight there, just pop it in and I'll answer that too. Hooks, what's up, Jared? He says, "What's up, Pat and chat? Good game overall. I'm really just worried about our run defense, but I know Dex hasn't played, so maybe I'm jumping the gun on that one." Definitely saw some gaps and holes in the running game. You're absolutely right. Dex wasn't out there, but this has been something that a drum I've been banging is that I do think, as dangerous as the Giants' pass rush is, the Giants are going to have to prove on defense they can stop the run first. And I think that's in conjunction with the offense scoring. You need the offense to score to help you take leads so that teams need to throw on you as well. So it's twofold. It's one, the run defense has to force teams into throwing situations. And then also the offense needs to score points. Like you look at a game like today. Now, again, I know there were guys on both sides of the ball not playing on both teams, but the Jets get the ball first. The Giants get a stop on defense. Russell Wilson throws that deep ball to Bo Collins, and then they score on that Singletary touchdown run. Just getting that early lead, that 7-0 lead, even that is a lot different than what the Giants have done mostly in the last few years. And so if they can just even get off on that foot early in these games, then I think you can start helping the run defense from an offensive standpoint. And as you said, Dexter acclimating, getting healthier, and hopefully by week 1 being at full tilt. Barb says 30-plus points in 2 games. Am I dreaming? Dart is looking fire. Jets should trade for Jameis. I agree with the last part too, Barb. Manzo says, what's up? Could we see a scenario where we trade Wilson instead of Winston since we only have him for this year? Manzo, I don't think so because they are treating Wilson with a lot of reverence. They've given him essentially all of the first team reps. They've operated this offseason by installing purely, a Russell Wilson offense, essentially. And you're seeing them start to give Dart more. But now, Manzo, could that come deeper into the season if they replace Wilson with Dart? Maybe. But at the moment, Manzo, it doesn't appear like it's headed in that dramatic of a direction. I think it's very clear, especially, and I've told you guys this before, but I would reiterate it to you. I don't think there's a lot of trust internally with Jameis Winston, or there's not as much trust in Jameis as you would have in him, or as you would expect there to be. So that's the best way I would put that. Yes, there's holes on every roster. That's why for sure it's key to have top players playing at their top level. So you're right. Every team maybe has a weakness or something to attack. But if let's say the Giants get to a point where Neighbors is healthy on the field, Lawrence is healthy on the field, Thomas is healthy on the field, Carter is blossoming, Dart steps up. Guys like Darius Slayton, Jalen Hyatt coming into their own. Theo Johnson blossoms at tight end. Offensive line solidifies with the help of some of those key players. Yes, you're absolutely right. Every team has weaknesses, but it really boils down to those key top players playing at their top level and kind of winning those matchups at key times. And then also, it does, though, for sure, have also you need to have a strong enough roster depth-wise to handle injuries that are inevitable in football. And then also the drop-off can't be too steep at key spots. So in other words, if you have a really good defense and 10 of your 11 players are reliable, but let's say one of your outside corners is vulnerable, once you get into the regular season, teams are going to attack that player every single time until you replace him or go trade for an improvement or whatever it is, right? So that, but you're absolutely right about a lot of rosters in the league. Meant to ask him about VR. I will ask about that. You guys were asking me last chat about them using virtual reality, the quarterbacks. I will ask. H-Town, health and wealth to all. Dart is going to be a problem for the NFL real soon. That would be good news for the Giants. For Show KB says, who and how many wide receivers make the roster? I think the Giants may end up keeping 4 quarterbacks. I don't know why they would keep 4 quarterbacks. Wide receivers right now on this team would be Malik Neighbors, Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, Amir Smith-Marset, the returner. Bo Collins looks like he's headed in that direction. And Jalen Hyatt? That would be 6, right? Am I missing somebody? So that would be 6. If it was going to be 7, let's see. I mean, I think that's probably a good number, those 6. If it was 7, who's it going to be? Is it going to be Little Jordan Humphrey? Is it going to be – that's a good question. That's where I am right now. I would be at those 6 and then maybe a wild card 7th. But it's early. It's early too. H-Town says if the secondary can be as solid as the D-line, this is a championship defensive unit, and the O-line has been playing better, even though Thomas is out. Neal has been earning his paycheck lately. Yeah, Evan worked in the trenches tonight, had some breakdowns, had one that got led to Dart taking a big shot, but good that he got the work in tonight, that he's grinding. That's the only way you get better. GCN says, Pat, Dart is the starter, Winston is the backup, and they cut Wilson. They run the quick offense so much better than Wilson. They should stick with the quick offense style for the whole game. So I'm glad you brought that up, GCN, because Jaxson Dart said at halftime, they talked to him about, do you want to run some tempo? He said he was all for it. So this is what he ran at Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin and with Joe Judge on that staff, grooming him. And I talked to Juice Wells Jr. about this. Juice Wells said that, yeah, they're very comfortable in it. You saw Wells make that really nice catch and run, get it down to the goal line on that play, which is a really nice play for him. But he said, they really feel comfortable in it. He also said, though, that he's seen already an enormous improvement from Dart in reading defenses, in recognizing cover 0 and making checks at the line. And so that, yes, Dart is comfortable with the speedy tempo and playing at that. But he said, that takes a lot of work. And he said the reason that Dart's good at it is because of how often he studies. He said he hangs around the locker rooms for a long time after practices. And he said those call-it periods where they're doing this hurry up and tempo in practice, it's just one word that calls out a whole play and everybody has to memorize it. And he said he really can't believe that he and a lot of these other receivers that they know what these plays are because there's so much to memorize about all those call-it plays. But he said that Dart drills it. The players drill it together when they go home at night to the hotel during camp, during OTAs, during the spring. And so, that does look like they found something a little bit there, does it not? Now, Dart did say that he was kicking himself. He felt like he would have scored on that one play where he got tripped up on the 3rd down. He really did nearly almost get out there. That would have been crazy. But you're absolutely right. The tempo is interesting and does seem to help them and favor them. It's not the kind of thing you run all the time in the NFL, but the change of pace and especially you're trying to do it when the defense also isn't expecting it, or at a juncture in the game where you're trying to either change or capitalize on and push momentum to get yourself to a point where you're creating an advantage on the field. But as far as what they do, they've invested so much this offseason in Russell Wilson as a leader of their team and a leader of their offense that I don't see them trading or cutting him prior to the start of the year. This does, though, I've said this before. Going into this, I said to you, if they start giving him first-team reps and playing him with the first-team offense, then it's time to start recognizing that what they're doing is getting Jaxson ready to possibly play early in the season. And that is what tonight was. Make no mistake about it. This was getting Jaxson Dart more challenges, more opportunities, and getting him ready for the potential of getting to, in the early season, a point where Dart, the rookie, is prepared, if needed, to go in with the first team offense. And that's what you have to ask yourself too. If Russell Wilson remains the week 1 starter, and that's what Brian Daboll says he is, if he remains the week 1 starter, how long, if he starts struggling, would it take for Daboll to put Dart into a game? Would he do it in the first game against Washington? Would he wait until week 2 against Dallas? Would he give it a few weeks? And is this Wilson's season, followed by Dart coming in once the season either goes up or down with Wilson, and then buying time into next year with Dart taking over full time next season? There's a lot of different ways it can go, but I think it's impossible at this point to believe that it's going to be long before Dart is on the field in a regular season game for the Giants. Kafka play calling without Daniel Jones looks a lot different for this team, says H-Town. Well, Kafka's calling plays now, hadn't called plays really since 2023, early in that season. It is a different quarterback, but I do see a lot of similarities in how he calls it. You even saw on the Dart touchdown pass today. Now, that was a good throw and good route by Dulcich, but that was schemed wide open by Kafka. That was a great call. It was like that fake pitch out to the right, and then Dart resets, sets his feet in the pocket. Dulcich cuts back across, and the linebackers have been pulled outside of the middle of the field. And this is something I got into with Mike Kafka and asked him about recently, about stretching the field horizontally and not just vertically. And Mike Kafka talked about it's important to put defenders that you think you can get an advantage against or that are vulnerable into conflict. And that is what that is doing. He is identifying a linebacker or a certain spot in a coverage on the Jets there as vulnerable for that play, as keying with their eyes on the running back and on the backfield. And you're setting it up earlier on with how you're running your offense, with how you're calling it early. And so that is what I saw on that play. Hooks thinks they should trade Tommy. Joe wants to know what Daboll was yelling at the DC during the second quarter. He was actually, I saw him get animated with the running backs coach at one point over a substitution that looked like it was almost incorrect. I saw him rolling his eyes, especially in the second half, at some of the defensive breakdowns for the backups at certain points. I think what you're seeing is a confident, borderline cocky at times Daboll right now. And also, as I've said all summer, tons of urgency coming from the Giants head coach right now. And so that urgency that Daboll is showing, we all know this, like it can spill over on game days. And when they're winning and he's getting results, it can be okay. But if you get to the point where you're losing and you're getting on coaches at inopportune moments or in a harsh way, it has backfired on Daboll badly in the past. So he does have to be careful about that. What was he yelling at the defensive coordinator exactly in that moment? I'm not sure. But I did see his body language in the second half when the defense had some breakdowns was a little concerning. Like it needs to be reined in a little. Patrick, what's up? Patrick checks in with $10 super chat. Thank you, Patrick. He says, hey, Pat, how's Neighbors and Scattaboo healing? Are they truly going to be ready for the regular season? That's a lot of time off before playing in the regular season. I believe Neighbors is. Neighbors was around the team tonight. Scattaboo was here. I have a little more doubt about Scattaboo. I think that has to be looks like something that they're going to take their time with until they know he's ready. When he walked in tonight a little slowly, coming into the stadium. Believe it's a hamstring. my guess would be, my educated guess based on what I know would be that Neighbors is full go in week 1 and Scattaboo is possibly on the field in that game, but may not be based on the outlook where he's at. If you think about it, you have this week just a couple practices really coming up prior to the Patriots game, and you're not going to give him one practice and just run him out there against the Patriots. I wouldn't think. That would be, with a real injury, that would be a lot to run up on a guy that quickly. And so then you have pretty much a dead week with cuts and that kind of thing, a bunch of walkthroughs, maybe a practice here. And then you go into week 1 and it's game week, it's game preparation. So it wouldn't surprise me if Scattaboo was past week 1 to be careful about it. No one has told me that that's exactly happening, but that's my feeling on it. I think really what they're doing with Malik is they just don't want to screw this up anymore. They know that he's ready. They know he looks great. They just want to make sure he's full go for the Commanders game. I like Tommy, but he's a trade asset at this point. That interception he threw was a lucky bounce, says Hooks. I don't know what you're getting for Tommy in a trade. I'll be totally honest with you. I do not see a place for him on this team other than the practice squad for sure. Joe says, Pat, the Jets pushed the Giants D-line around after the first Jets drive. They rushed for 141 yards and no sacks for the Giants. That is a problem. The run defense is a concern. I've said this all summer and off season. The Giants have to prove they can stop the run first. They didn't prove it last year. They need to prove it this year. Let's see. MJ says Fields passed about 4 times. How many sacks did you want the Giants to get on him? Yeah, he looked rough too. Yeah, I would focus more on the running game there as far as how they ran to the offense today, because then it was a lot of the reserves in against Martinez and some of the backups. Interesting that Chauncey Golston played all the way through the fourth quarter and end of game. That was a pretty significant free agent signing for them. And that's the time of the game where guys who are definitely not making the team for the most part are playing. And so interesting that a guy that they gave real money to on their defensive line and in their defensive rotation is playing at that juncture. Yes, Fields looks horrendous. Jared from Hooks, Rubs, and Spices says that today he went live a couple times during a couple unboxing videos that should be up right now on his YouTube channel. Definitely have to do a taste test or seasoning demo. That's a good idea. So just so you know where you can find Hooks, Rubs, and Spices, it's at Hooks Rub. That's on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Subscribe there, activate your pregame playlist, and join the Flavor Fam. Hooks, Rubs, and Spices. We smoke meat. Iconic says, Pat, I love the vibe with the team. Do you think with the belief becoming strong that Dart could become the starter? Pedroza says Dart is the future for NYG. Yes, I do believe that Dart could become the starter sooner rather than later. I think based on what Daboll's saying, based on how the Giants are operating and how they've been operating all offseason, it would be a hard left turn for them to go from preparing only Russell with the first team to just going to Jaxson like that. But to me, Jaxson continues to earn these opportunities. So if you're escalating his opportunities and you're continuing to put more on his plate to see what he can handle to get him to the point where he can play in the regular season for you, we saw another step tonight. So in other words, you could ask me, hey, Pat, can Dart start in week 1? But you couldn't put him in week 1, week 2 as a starter if you hadn't seen him play with first teamers against first team defenders, right? And so a game like tonight, even though it was only 4 snaps with the first team offense, that is another hurdle. It's another box to check. And so what I would say is that Dart 3 weeks ago wasn't making this a conversation. Now that the real football is happening, it's starting to become one. It's not at the point where you're saying yet that, like, based on how they've run practice and how they've split all their reps and who they've played the quarterbacks with, it's not at the point yet where they would run him out there with the first team in week 1 and suddenly change who their week 1 starter is. But if the next step is giving him some practice with Malik Neighbors and the first team offense, putting him on the field behind the scenes with those guys, splitting first team reps between Russell Wilson and Jaxson Dart, if it goes there next, now we're headed even closer to that inevitability, right? What I would say is this: whether it's week 1 or not, that he gets in, does he supersede Russ, any of that, I think the main takeaway from our summer, what we've had so far here with Jaxson Dart and the Giants, is that if Russell, assuming Russell is the week 1 starter, because that's what they're telling us and that's what we've seen, if the Giants falter early and Russell is a part of that, Jaxson Dart playing early is obviously on the table and actually feels inevitable. Now, maybe the Giants don't falter early. Maybe Dart has gotten to a point here, but it's going to help him to continue to practice, to continue to grow. But listen, in the NFL, when you draft a quarterback in the first round, I keep coming back to this. When you draft a quarterback in the first round in the NFL and he shows promise and he starts making plays on the field, leaving him off the field, keeping him off the field, keeping him on the sideline, typically, usually, almost always does not happen. That's what I would remind you of. Yeah, the entire Jets beat concern, no doubt, about what you're seeing from the Jets quarterback at this moment. The Giants had their way with Justin Fields and the Jets offense really all week, from the 2 joint practices to the preseason game here tonight. It's very interesting because Fields, he was operable with the Steelers last year, no doubt about it. And even though Russell Wilson eventually replaced him there were plenty of people in the Steelers building who really liked Justin Fields a lot. I think it actually speaks to Arthur Smith as an offensive coordinator in Pittsburgh, what he was able to do with Fields there. I think that's evidence that there is that talent. There is a higher ceiling than what we're seeing from him with the Jets at the moment. But if they're not able to unlock it here in New York, and if this is the way their offense is going to look, they're in deep trouble. So I think that's the feeling I get from the Jets side of things right now, coming out of this practice week and this game. Roman says, how much of Dart's success has to do with play calling? I admit he has looked solid, but I feel a lot has been due to the plays being called, like quick passes, screen passes, etc. Romans, that's a really astute observation by you. They're certainly putting him in favorable positions to succeed with some of these calls. But listen, I think, you want to put him out there to have success. You want to use his strengths. You want to get a good feeling. You want to collaborate as play caller and quarterback to maximize everybody's strengths. So I don't think you're wrong that they've pulled some creativity out in order to give Dart some, whether it's a friendly completion or read. Like in Buffalo, there were a lot of screen passes, a lot of dump offs, stuff like that for sure. But I think that's a part of running a good offense too. And, like if you scheme up a nice 20-yard gain, the quarterback still made the throw, right? And 20-yard throw is a 20-yard throw. So I don't think you're wrong, though. I don't think you're wrong. Hooks says, I really like Dart now. Not sure he'll start the season, but he looks great for the future of the club. Ideally, we never see him, not Jameis on the field, which means Russ is cooking and the Giants are winning. GCN says, Pat, in your Friday column, Dable said Neighbors was rehabbing. Really? From what new injury is this? Don't know exactly, but there's the toe, there's the shoulder, and then Neighbors has been a guy who gets nicked up, bumped up. He played through it last season. Missed a little bit of time, but by and large played through a lot. Had a concussion last year, if you remember. I think right now, though, what I gather is I think they're being extra cautious with him. No one has indicated to me that it's a serious new injury that is going to keep him out of week one. I think they're being extremely diligent about managing guys' workloads and about protecting certain key players like that who have some bumps and bruises who they know they need on the field in week one. Yes, Garrett Wilson did play, Joe. Cordell Flott actually knocked down a third down pass coming his way to end one of the Jets' drives and force a field goal. And then Paulson Adebo on the first drive knocked down a pass intended for Wilson as well to force a punt. Could have been pass interference on that one, but no flag was thrown. Yeah, Hooks is saying exactly what I just said. Third injury that is not significant enough to keep him out when the regular season starts. That is a more succinct way of putting it. Let's see. Yes, Juice Wells Jr. was at Ole Miss with Jaxson. Yes. So his comments to me about seeing Jaxson read the field even better, about him growing and how he is checking into and out of plays, about how he is seeing cover zero, all of those things. Like he feels like Jaxson has grown even just in these last several months, how he is reading the field and how he is executing when he does. So that was really valuable information. Another receiver conversation that jumped out to me was talking to Bo Collins. Bo said that, on that 80-yard bomb that, they had worked on that play. And if you noticed on that play, and I saw the same thing, Darius Slayton actually came open kind of across the field to the right into like a hole in the zone there. And in practice, that was the route that was opening up and coming open more often. And Collins said when he ran the route today, he did what he was supposed to do looking for the ball, but he said he turns around and he sees Russ loading up and he says, oh man, he's about to throw this thing. I got to go make this play. And so it was a good description from a receiver of the difference between the concept and looking at it on a sheet of paper when you're doing installs and studying, and then actually being out there on the field and the refreshing feeling of catching, of seeing that bomb being launched to you and you're running the route, trusting that the quarterback's going to throw it. But it is a nice thing to have a quarterback who is launching that and giving you that chance. Joe says, Pat, Tyrone Tracy was on Nightcap with Shannon Sharp on YouTube. He said he was a slot receiver until his senior year in college. His goals are 1,500 yards rushing and 10 touchdowns. Yes, he was a converted wide receiver. Patrick with another super chat. Thank you. Hey, Pat, what did you think about the starting corners tonight without Banks in there? They looked much better than the previous week. I do think the Jets' quarterback play and their lack of a really significant second receiving option is a factor to remember as well. But there's no doubt about it that, like I said, Flott and Adebo making plays on the ball on third down, batted passes to force incompletions and end drives. And those were both against Wilson. I thought were very encouraging. Listen, let's focus on so Adebo got paid. He's going to be on the field. He's either going to validate that contract or not, but he's going to be on the field. The Flott Banks thing is a real question mark and constant source of intrigue because not only do you not know which guy is going to be on the field there, but you need a solution. Like you need something solid. You need something to believe in there. And Banks, as much as he worked hard and came into camp looking like he was trying his best to take it, he's now banged up. And obviously, we saw some of those old bad habits of not finding the ball creeping back into his game. And frankly, Joe Shane during the press conference or during the first broadcast just didn't exude much confidence in him. And it has the feel like some of these position battles have the feel of, what the Giants ideally would love to see happen, right? For a good reason. Like, they obviously would love to see Flott just take this job. They obviously would love to see Evan Neal just take the right guard job, both for this season and also for what it can mean like for the future of the team, right? So those things understandable. But I think Flott has been banged up and hasn't been on the field, hasn't been around. And so it wasn't much of a battle at all. So I think anytime he is making a play like this, it's exciting. It's encouraging because I do believe that come week 1, he's the player that, listen, both guys are going to play probably, might even be a rotation. But I do think Flott is the guy they would love to see if he can stay on the field, is win that job. How did the O-line look, says Joe? Sims and Banks think they are the best O-line in the league now. What about Neal? Well, I think what can be said is that the line on a couple different deep pass plays bought a lot of time. A Luminor with a nice block on Wilson's deep throw to Bo Collins. And good protection from the line on that deep stop route by Jalen Hyatt. 2 ones that stood out to me tonight. So those things were encouraging because they had some rough practice time with the Jets. James says the Mississippi offense looked good tonight. Call It a Comeback says, finally, I thought this was happening right after the game. So Call It during the season and during games. So because I cover the team for the New York Daily News as well, when I'm at these games in person, after the game ends, I go down to the locker room and I talk to the players, talk to Brian Daboll, do interviews, talk to sources, and then I come back up here and I bring all that information to you guys. So it's not right after the game ends. So apologies if you thought that. I did try to advertise it as after the locker room interviews on social media. If you follow me on X, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, the handle is PL on NFL everywhere except on X. I'm P Leonard NYDN. But generally, when we do these post-game lives, it ends up being about, like, what was tonight? An hour and 20 minutes after the game ended, an hour 15 minutes or so after the game ended. So that gives me enough time to gather more information for you all, to bring it to you. Because the point of this is break down the game and let you guys ask questions and also unwind whether it's a win or a loss. But I also want to bring you knowledge and information and insight firsthand from the stadium that you can't get anywhere else. So that's the reason we do it that way. Let's see. All right. Let's try to run through some more of the queue here. A2 says Dart is so poised, the complete opposite of Daniel Jones. What a change. Wow. Hook says Joey B's bottle is in the mail. So Joey B won the last trivia question, the Hooks, Rubs, and Spices last trivia question. So he has some product headed his way. Congrats, Joey B. K-Saint, if you're on here, you still have to send me your information for winning the trivia this past week. Intel says playoffs, Pat, playoffs. Savage Steve says, what's up? All positive vibes. Dart looks like he is gaining confidence and being more calm. No doubt about it. Shout out to Antoine. No doubt. Wyatt says, do we have enough to beat the Eagles and Cowboys at least once? That's a good question. The Cowboys look like they're a little gettable this year. New head coach, Brian Schottenheimer. New DC, Matt Eberflus. Some questions on the offensive line, some injuries. Micah Parsons still not on the field. DeMarvion Overshawn. There's a chance the Giants could draw a Cowboys defense in week 2 without Micah Parsons, DeMarvion Overshawn, and Trayvon Diggs. Diggs is banged up. He might miss a couple games at the start of the year. Overshawn's definitely going to be out that game. Who knows what happens with Parsons? So, yeah, I mean, they would need to be able to stop Dak Prescott, George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb, and the Cowboys offense. But if they can stop the run and if they can score some points, they have a chance. Obviously, asking a lot right off the bat, but they look a little gettable. The Eagles, good question. I think the Eagles are a team that look extremely talented still, top to bottom, for the most part. I know they have like a CB2 battle that's not that hasn't gone the way that they wanted it to just yet. No team is perfect, but they really look tough. But I think if you can get one each against the Commanders and Cowboys, at least, you can start feeling like you're headed in a better direction. Now, nobody wants to go 2-4 in the division. That's bad, right? And to Jaxson Dart's point, they need to get used to that winning feeling. But I would say the other two teams more of a chance of getting one each. Hooks agrees. He thinks they get the Cowboys this year at least once. That kid Ford looks like he has some juice to him, says H-Town. Yes, Trace Ford had a nice night tonight, rushing the passer, was in the backfield more often than most. You're absolutely right. He did flash in this game. Sublight says Dart's real test will be how he responds to his first bad game. I'm confident he will be good, though. Peterstown says, Pat, no question. Just want to say love these after the game shows. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Peterstown. Really appreciate that. H-Town thinks the Saints could make a move for Russ. Colts look like they might need someone. Yeah, how crazy is that right now? Colts Shane Steichen, their head coach, basically begging either Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson to take the job because clearly neither has. Jared, maybe they try to trade at Wilson deadline. I don't think, early here. I don't know what they would get for him there. If you're trading him at the deadline, is there a team that has playoff? You need a sweet spot at the deadline where you found a team that had playoff hopes and also maybe like a quarterback injury. You know what I mean? Because I don't know if a team would just acquire him just to stash him for just in case. That'd be interesting. A2 says, if Turbo doesn't make the team, we all riot. Turbo has shown some serious juice. I like where your head's at, A2. Well, so listen, that's, I'm not telling you this is happening, but one way that could happen would be if Cam Scatterbo needs, let's say they start him off on PUP for the start of the season, maybe. If you can free a roster spot, you can put Turbo on the active early on, and then you could have the three running backs there of Turbo with Tracy and Singletary. And then, from there, then once Scatterbo gets healthy, you make that decision when the time comes. But that would be one way to potentially do it, depending on what's going on with Scatterbo. Right. Kafka made a pitch play to Turbo earlier. He played off of that play call. Yes, exactly. He set it up with an earlier play, pitching the ball for sure. But that's what I was saying is Kafka does that intentionally, consistently in his play calling. That is one of the staples, as well as stretching the play horizontally to get the offense vertical. H-Town says the use of tight ends is something the team should have been doing for the last few years. Looks as if they are going to use them this year more offensively. I think Kafka does like to use the tight ends, especially in the red zone. And I think he's keen on misdirecting the defense with the other weapons on the field sometimes to open up that middle of the field. JDJ points out something that some others noticed too. Speaking of walk-ins, your walk-in looked smooth, Pat. Unfortunately, Scatterbo looked the exact opposite. He walked with a slight limp. Doubt he's ready for week 1. I would agree with that. Ronnie Rivers says, don't rush him. He is not patient. Let him learn and let him learn. All right, so I think you're talking about Jaxson Dart there. Don't rush him. Definitely a section of the fan base that agrees with you for sure. Steve says our run defense was not good. Why is Ledbetter still on the team? He has not been good. Yeah, well, that would be a player I would think would be cut. So, yeah, and the run defense. Listen, I've said this consistently. The interior defensive line is a concern. The run defense is a concern. The depth is a concern. I would urge you guys all to read my story on Dexter Lawrence on the New York Daily News website too, nydailynews.com. And the reason I say that is because it's just worth pointing out, again, just like Malik, just like these other guys, he's on a plan to get back and get better, Dexter Lawrence. But he's been significantly limited. He's been significantly limited during training camp, especially in the spring, but even during training camp as well. And so something to watch there, because you need your best player on your team healthy and ready to rock early in the season and at his best. But also next to Lawrence, who are you trusting there to really shut down the run? That is a question. H-Town says Giants have the hardest schedule in the NFL. What would you call a successful season for the coaching staff? Daboll primarily to keep his job, or what happens that makes him lose it, or is there improvement made so far? H-Town, I think, listen, if Dart looks the part, and if let's say the team has a rough year as far as wins and losses go, but let's say Jaxson Dart enters the lineup in week 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever it is there in the early to mid season. And even though they don't scratch out a ton of wins, he plays well. He looks good. He carries himself well. If you get to that point and he's a positive and you have some other positives sprinkled throughout the roster, then I would think that would be enough for this regime to get to their 5th and final year on their current contracts. I think that Daboll's management of games, especially in key tight situations, is a factor in him keeping his job. I think there's no question that Daboll over the years has not been a specialist at executing situational football, game day decisions, tight decisions in tight games. I think those swings, like getting wins on those calls, getting losses, like think back to the first year when they went for it in Tennessee, went for 2 and got it, showed that moxie, that confidence, that execution, took a chance. You know, it's not always about taking the chance, but there needs to be a level of preparation and understanding and execution from the coaching standpoint and sideline to give your team an advantage. So you can give your team an advantage in a lot of ways as a coach. One of them obviously can be helping select and develop and improve and start Jaxson Dart, right? That could be a huge factor too for Daboll. But I think, you know, we'd be kidding ourselves if we didn't think that in weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, at least 2 of those games are going to be, let's say, tight going into the 4th quarter. And the difference between 1-3 and 3-1 in those moments can be a critical decision on a 4th down, a personnel call of who to put in, who to leave out, who to take out, who to bench, who to start. You know, think about the Graham Gano decision last year going into Washington with the injury and being left without a kicker. And those are personnel calls. Joe Shane's involved in that too. Those can be the differences between wins and losses. And, you know, so H-Town, it's not necessarily about the record. It's about how they handle those moments and those calls and those decisions. I think, you know, in their division, I think Daboll should, as far as game management goes, maybe have a better chance of getting one over on a first-timer in Brian Schottenheimer. If it's tight at times, maybe a Dan Quinn even. Quinn's an experienced coach, but as far as game management goes, that's obviously, like a lot of coaches at times, been his Achilles heel. So maybe you find an advantage. Maybe you find a sliver of hope in that. How many games would they have to win? It's hard to say. I think I really don't have confidence in my ability to judge what's acceptable to John Mara and Steve Tisch anymore after them thinking that last year's 3-14 was okay and everything that went into it. So it's really hard for me to answer that part of it. I do think, though, the confluence of obvious improvement in talent and, let's say, a meaningful improvement in wins to the 7, 8, 9 range, that and or Jaxson Dart being the guy, right? Those are all different things that can save you. But I hope that answers the question. It's a very involved question, a lot of detail to it. Joe says, Pat, the Giants need a modern offense like the Lions, not an old-time conservative offense. Defense is not going to dominate and only give up 10 points a game. That's why those explosive plays matter, Joe. And that's why, as much as Dart played well tonight and continues to press for more responsibility and more opportunity to maybe challenge for that quarterback one job, Russell Wilson's 80-yard bomb to Bo Collins was an important completion tonight. That was a very important play. Like for Wilson to show what he can do and for the Giants to show what they can do. Look at Jameis Winston finding Dalen Cambray on the scramble drill there. Another important one. Filta says, why is Wan'Dale so safe as wide receiver 3? I see a lot of competition out there for 3 and 4. Filta, great question. I think probably because he's a second-round pick. I have been banging this drum. I'm glad you're there with me. And again, it would be great if you gave him competition and maybe he raised his level. But whether it's being undersized, whether it's like the drop he had down the field, and especially in traffic, I think he struggles. It's just the size and speed of the game and these defensive players. Now, we know Wan'Dale has made some plays in this league for sure. He's got some quickness to him. He's a weapon, but he's definitely more of a gadget guy than he is a true slot. I'm right there with you. JDJ, Pat, do you think they'll rest most of the starters and important players in game 3? Does Dart play? I would think Dart plays, but a fair amount of starters do not. That would be my guess. But maybe, listen, it'll probably be targeted like tonight, because Dable has been consistent about trying to get his starters on the field. So, I think there will be some starters on the field, just a question of how many. I think they'll want to be safe and cautious. So here, just to recap, guys, here's who was not on the field in uniform tonight. Malik Neighbors, Dexter Lawrence, Andrew Thomas, obviously, and obviously Eric Gray as well. Corner Deontay Banks, Chris Manhertz, Daniel Bellinger, Cam Scattaboo, Hawkins, Trey Hawkins, Tyler Nubin, Demetrius Flanagan-Foles, Kayvon Wallace, and Daquan Felton. I know Bellinger, hopeful that he'll be back on the field this coming week. See if I have any other insight on them. I mean, I think Lawrence and Neighbors are guys that they're trying to ramp up for week 1. Scattaboo, like we talked about. Hawkins, I don't know. Banks, some question mark there. I think Nubin is some precaution. Dane Belton played a lot tonight. Played well, too. Kyle says this team is better. Keyword, better. Who knows what happens in September and October? Well, it's about, and here's another thing too. All of these years that the Giants, whether they win some, lose some, whatever, there's always this conversation about the Giants have lost 5 games by 3 points or less, or it could be if a team is winning, someone will say the Bengals have, Yeah, they're 10-1, but 7 of their wins came by under a touchdown. It doesn't matter. Like, what matters is the win or the loss. Think about, remember that win the Giants had in Washington where Darnay Holmes was blanketing and hugging the receiver? Was that Curtis Samuel in the end zone? Or, yeah, I think it was Curtis Samuel. And they didn't throw a flag and the Giants won. It's like, yes, it was the wrong call. Yes, they should have thrown the flag. The Giants got lucky, but guess what? They won. They won the game. Like, you win and you lose in the NFL, whether it's by a point. Either way, you win whether you lose by a point, whether you won on a bad call, whether, think about the Giants' first Super Bowl with Eli Manning, that last drive. It was like 3 or 4 of the passes should have been or could have been intercepted. The ball's going through defenders' hands. It's bouncing around, hitting the ground. He nearly gets sacked. He runs around. He heaves a ball up down the field to David Tyree, who catches it with his helmet. You could say whatever you want. If you're a Patriots fan, if you're an NFL fan who's hating on the Giants, guess what? They won the Super Bowl, right? It's like, so I say this because, to Kyle's point, you see some improvements. You see some better things about this team, some better vibes. You see some encouraging things from guys like Dart, Abdul Carter, etc. By the way, I actually thought Carter came back to earth in this game in a lot of ways. Made some good run stops, but also got wiped out on a big run. And pass rush-wise, he got after the quarterback on a screen, but was mostly quiet there. Had a welcome to the NFL moment, got plastered to the ground on a blindside chip block by Stone Smart, tight end from the Jets. But back to my point, as Kyle is saying, team's better. We'll see what happens. But the thing I'm getting at is Giants are urgent. They need to get results early in this season. And as we just talked about, there will be a barometer for what Shane and Dable need to do this year. If you start 0-4 and you lost every game by under 5 points, 0-4 is 0-4, right? Now, there are degrees of bad, right? You could be 0-4 and lose 30-0, or 4-0 and win every game by 1 point. But same token, if you're 4-0 and you win every game by 1, you're 4-0. Doesn't matter that it was close. Doesn't matter that you almost coughed them up. Like, this is something in the modern NFL that really needs to be hammered home. Most of the games are going to be close. You have to get the results. Yeah, so GCN, just to be clear, I set the time of when these chats start. I set it tonight for 11 p.m. I think it was about 7 or 8 minutes behind that schedule, but was on schedule there. You guys can set your notifications once I make these chats live, and you can see that it's going to go live later on in the day, and it's up on the YouTube channel. You can set your notifications so that you receive them when we go live, and it reminds you all. A2 says, hey, Pat, silly question. Do you think any of the Giants watch these post-game live streams? I know some people in the organization check them out now and then. I don't know if they listen to or watch every word. They're aware of it. I would say this. If I say something dramatic or drastic or controversial or, something like, it gets back to you that someone has heard it usually. Talking ball is known in the Giants building, if that's what you're asking. Yeah, for sure. As far as the players go, though, I don't think so. I think something like this would be like called to a player's attention, maybe, if I said something that somebody felt like they should see. But they're definitely aware of it. I think sometimes the players are, ask about, hey, when can I come on the show or when can I come on the podcast? Sometimes that's how you end up getting guys onto the podcast in the first place. Why did Amir Smith-Marset not play? Thanks for pointing that out, Antonio. He I had him out there in warm-ups and in uniform, but then did not go. I think keeping him in bubble wrap, and they were trying to see what D. Williams had as a returner. So I think that was more of a precautionary thing. But I have to look more into that. But that's a good point by you. Yes, Scary Terry off the PUP list, but no contract yet. Yeah, they just had to take him off the PUP list so he could be available for week 1 if he is back. He is signed for this year, so he's still under contract. So they don't need to technically sign him for him to play, but obviously he's made that demand too. Very interesting, by the way, that Cliff Kingsbury came out and made that comment about that they need them on the field. I actually think Kingsbury's comment is going to end up getting it done, because usually when coaches speak up like that, that'll be heard internally as loudly as it was heard externally. Let's see. Oh, yeah, and Jude McTamney also, he kicked tonight. Graham Gano with the night off. All right, let's see. JDJ says Dable is in full bloom love with Dart. I don't think he wants to rush Dart, but I feel like the playbook opens up and is more versatile with Dart because of him being a run threat and more mobile. Very good point. Michael, yes, September 4th is NFL opening night with Labor Day being on Monday. Yes. So the NFL regular season kicks off 8:20 p.m. Eastern time. Cowboys at Eagles, followed by Chiefs at Chargers on Friday, September 5th at 8 p.m. And then we get into the Sunday slate with the Giants traveling to the Commanders. They do monitor social media, no doubt. How's it going? Great. How are you? Maybe 10, 15. Is that all right? Okay. Thank you. Good to see you. They look good today, huh? They did look good. Yeah. All right. Thanks. Listen, everybody, it is almost 12:30. It's after midnight. It's 12:30 a.m. here on August 17th. I am one of the few people, as you just heard, the security guard. He's trying to wrap up here in the press box. I am sitting here looking at the field. I am one of the few people still hanging out here because I want to bring the information to you. And I love doing this. I love my job. I'm grateful for it. It's nice to have the breaks when you need them. It's nice to take a breather in the off season. But you know what's great? Covering football for a living, but also being around a team that has some life, has some juice, has some belief. Really exciting. Thank you all for being here. Trying to think of a good trivia question for you, courtesy of Hooks, Rubs, and Spices. See if we can get a giveaway going for this chat. If you can stick around, I'm looking for the Giants to send out some of their post-game notes. They usually have some good post-game notes in there that you may not have thought of, that are kind of off the beaten path, that can make for some good trivia. So hang on for a few more minutes, and we'll do our Hooks, Rubs, and Spices trivia. H-Town says, realistically, Russell Wilson can drop the ball on the breadbasket 50-plus down the field with a full starting lineup. Neighbors could have 12,000 plus, and Slayton and others contribute 600 plus yards each. Bandit says, season ticket holder, was at the game. Totally different vibe this year. Nice to see. It's been a while. I was getting texts, from Giants fans I know. One said, are you ready to change your record prediction? Another was joking, like, I've seen enough. We're going to the Super Bowl, obviously tongue in cheek, but the excitement is high. The excitement is very high. Patrick says, thanks for all you do, Pat. Thank you, Patrick. I really appreciate that, man. And thank you all. A2 says, thanks, Pat. You rock. Big Dash says, appreciate you, Pat. You guys are awesome. GCN says, Pat, they will give you the key. Lock up Giants Stadium before you leave. No doubt. Yes, some good rivalry games week 1. Bandit thinks the Giants are going to take down Washington in week 1. Hey, listen, what's going on with McLaurin, right? Are they not going to have him on the field? Guys, I would urge you. I know I've told you before to go do it. But this interview I'll put in the queue here with JP Finley. If you grab that link, he gave some interesting insight last week into where it stood, into what it looks like. Now, his thought is that it was going to get done eventually, but I do think it's extremely interesting that it's taken this long. You hear the offensive coordinator now getting worried about them not having guys on the field, and they're trying to gel as a unit. Like, as good as Jaden Daniels is, and as exciting as he is, and as promising as he is, no sure thing. It just doesn't happen, right? All right. Let's see. Joe says, Pat, NFL favors the Chiefs because Taylor Swift is part of the team. No penalties on them. All spotlight on here, Sunday Night Football. What is that, week 3 for the home opener, Chiefs-Giants. Kyle, yes, there's concern about Andrew Thomas as far as readiness for week 1 because he hasn't been on the field yet. I would expect – I don't know why he's not on the field practicing yet. I know the thought going into July and August was that he would be on the field by now in more of a meaningful capacity. They're trying to make sure he gets to week 1 healthy, but the guy hasn't played actual football. It's hard to believe they could just roll him out there. It just doesn't add up. Kyle, I have to make a couple phone calls on this week this week. I'll be honest with you. But the fact of the matter is, right now, you ask me who their starting left tackle is for week 1. It's James Hudson. Joe says, Pat, the Giants hired a guy just to monitor social media, Shane said on the TV show. Shane said he does not listen to anything. He gets the rundown from the social media guy. Where did he say that? He absolutely listens to social media and sees social media. But where did he say that? That's interesting. Hook says, I feel like it's good our first game isn't that far from home in Washington, better than traveling across the country for a game. Yeah, Giants fans typically show up well in that stadium. And that interview I did with JP that I just popped in the chat, he also talked about how Giants fans do tend to fill up that parts of that stadium when they go there. Bandit says, if we had a kicker, we had them last year. Yeah, and the neighbors dropped. Tough. H-Town says, good runs by Tracy. Hope they allow him to run it 10 to 15 times a game. AJ says, hey, Pat, it's obvious Dart has the mid-range laser throws, but Russell Wilson's arm is not what it was. Wonder what Dable is thinking now. Oh, I think he would love to play Dart as soon as he's ready. His enthusiasm for him is over the top. Yeah, especially, here's the other thing, AJ. If as much as Russell Wilson is a veteran who can, like today, I said he checked into some good running calls with 2 eye safeties. If their offensive line protects well enough for Russell to get the ball down the field, then I think if you can take advantage of that element of his game, then you don't start looking at and seeing all the flaws. If their protection struggles, though, Wilson's mobility, escapability, his ability to see over the line, all those things, the warts will start to show fast. And so I think that if the line struggles, yes, the offense will struggle, but it will also lead to even a quicker look to Dart, because Dart's mobility, I think, will be better than what than Russell can offer in that sense. Kyle says, thank you, Pat. Thank you so much, Kyle, for that super chat. Really appreciate that. Patrick says, thanks for getting rid of the bots. They will beat the Commanders. You got it. Yeah, Washington could have a sophomore slump. Yeah, right. Like, it's Washington has a good team. Daniels is tough. So don't forget that. But yeah, it's not like it's just going to happen again, right? Like, it's not just going to happen. You got to go earn it. It's a new season. Yeah, Hooks reminds everyone, Houston is my hometown where I learned to hate Dallas and those Cowboys. Joe points out that Calvin Watkins from the Morning News, from the Dallas Morning News, told me in the interview I did with him, which is also up, that the Dallas offense looked good. Yes, that's the thing. As much as the Cowboys look gettable, their offense is looking good. Dak looks good, looks as good as he has in a while in camp. So, again, it comes back to, hey, they might be gettable, especially with a first-time head coach. But here's the thing. If you could feel better about Dallas having a new coach and being weaker in other places. But again, if the Giants offense is only scoring 17 to 23 points a game and Dallas is scoring 24 to 32, there you go. There's your game, right? You need to be able to score with them. It's the modern NFL. You can't expect your team to, like you said, you want the defense to shut teams down, but you can't rely on the defense holding, top offenses to 10 points every week. Iconic says, Pat, how is ownership feeling about the vibe since they are trying to decide on the fate of the coach and GM? Cautious optimism. Shane said that on the first episode of Hard Knocks Giants, says Joe. Oh, when he's driving in the car? Yeah, got you. Oh, that he hired the person? Got you. The Giants pay very close attention to that, Shane included. Houston had a sophomore slump after all the Stroud hype. Anything is possible, says Bandit. But Bandit, they won their division and won a playoff game last year. So, I mean, yeah, they definitely slumped in some ways for sure, but they also had the Chiefs right where they wanted them in the playoffs there too. Pat, did you see Tiki Barber at the game? He did say Wilson is a journeyman quarterback and Dart is the backup plan. Both things true. Both things there are true. All right. Let's get a trivia question in. The Hooks, Rubs, and Spices trivia question here on Talking Ball Postgame Live with Pat Leonard. 2 Giants had quarterback hits in this game. Who were they? Type the answer in the chat. 2 Giants had quarterback hits in this game. Who are they? The first person to get the correct names in the chat wins a free sample of Hooks, Rubs, and Spices. Reminder, Hooks, Rubs, and Spices brought to you by Jared. Owned and operated by Jared. Hooks, Rubs, and Spices originally, this man, Jared, comes from Houston, as he said. Part of the reason he hates the Dallas Cowboys. And listen, you can put them on smoked wings, cheesy nachos, flat top burgers, ribs, brisket sandwiches, all dusted with Hooks signature rubs. Use the code TalkingBall, 15% off discount. Find the full lineup and tailgate recipes on hooksrub.com. Hit up at hooksrub on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube to subscribe, activate your pregame playlist, and join the Flavor Fam. Hooks, Rubs, and Spices. We smoke meat. All right. So I see Thibodeau in the chat. Thibodeau is 1. The other one, though, is not Trace Ford. Trace Ford not credited with the quarterback hit, at least. Kyle says, I'm confident the Giants will make the playoffs first time, long time. See y'all there. Wow. Who wants some flavor? Who can get this trivia question? 2 Giants defensive players with quarterback hits in this game. First person to put it into the chat wins. Yeah, no, I hear you, Bandit. Yeah, they didn't look as good, and they were expecting a jump, and they got stuck in mud a little bit. Yeah, right. For sure. No, fair point. H-Town says, stopping the run is key this season. Have to focus on bettering in that area if we want to have a chance to compete. No doubt. JDJ says, do you think they are saving some of the creative plays with KT, Burns, and Carter on the field at the same time? They haven't played much together yet. They've been on together for sure. This might have been too hard of a question. I see people answering Burns, Thibodeau, Fox. No, it's actually a defensive back had the other quarterback hit. Maybe this is too in the weeds, this question. All right, how about this one? Okay. Bo Collins had 80 receiving yards. We're going to try a new question because no one's going to get this guy. The other answer was Nick Jones. So no one was going to guess him. So we're going to do a backup question and then get out of here, okay? The backup question is, Bo Collins had 80 yards receiving for the Giants today. Who had the second most receiving yards on the team? Who had the second most receiving yards for the Giants? Bo Collins was first with that 80-yard gain. Who had the second most? Dalen Cambry, yes. JDJ checks in. Dalen Cambry, yes. So JDJ, here's what you're going to do. You're going to direct message me. I'll be done in 1 minute. Okay. See, I'm the last person here, last man standing in the press box. JDJ, please send me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is PL on NFL. You're going to direct message me your name, address, and email, and Hooks, Rubs, and Spices will send you a free sample direct to you. Remember, it's Hooks, Rubs, and Spices. Code there is Talkin' Ball for 15% off on the website, hooksrub.com. Congrats, JDJ. All right, guys. They're kicking me out, so I have to jump. I have to go. But it's been an awesome post-game live. Thank you so much to the Super Chatters, Joey B., Patrick Evans, Elias. Patrick checked in several more times, and Kyle Gatta got us on the way out. Please support our sponsors, MyBookie, Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, Hooks, Rubs, and Spices, and Salaretta for Men. This has been Pat Leonard from the New York Daily News and the Talkin' Ball with Pat Leonard podcast. Post-game live here after the Giants defeat the Jets 31-12 here at MetLife Stadium. Looking forward to our chats this week. Guys, FYI, will not be going live this Monday. I'll be out all day at an event. So we'll have a slightly different live schedule preparing you for the Patriots game, the final preseason game next Thursday, also here at MetLife. Looking forward to that. Stay tuned on my social media everywhere for an update on when we're going live next this week. Like I said, no live on Sunday or Monday due to an event on Monday, but we'll do another event, another live either Tuesday or Wednesday in preparation of that Patriots game. And then we'll go post-game live next Thursday to break down the preseason finale and go over our projected 53-man roster. Thanks for being here. See you next time.